And science communication. She has become widely recognized for her work concerning conservation science with public engagements and educational impacts. Her work has been featured through organizations and platforms including National Geographic, the BBC, as well as Discovery Channel. And we are so happy to have you here, Dr. Mikki. And I think the floor is yours for you to have your presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be here. And I know we have a big difference in time. So thank you for accommodating. And it is, I know, nighttime there. So thank you so much for doing that. So I'll go ahead and get started if that's okay. And I have a presentation to do, and then I think we'll do some questions, and I'm happy to do that if that makes sense.
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to share my screen and start presentation. Okay, fantastic. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can see your screen. Yes, we
Okay,
can.
wonderful. Great. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work that I do. I'm Dr. Mikki McComb-Kobza, and I work with Ocean First Institute. And our organization, our mission is ocean conservation through research and education. And I want to just give you a little bit of background into how I got started in this research field, and why I feel that sharks are such an interesting topic for conservation. And so I'm going to just give you a little bit of a story of the research that I've done and the path that I've had to become a researcher, and why I think conservation and sustainability is so critically important. And so I'll tell that through the lens of a few different projects I've worked on. To start with, I really got interested in sharks through a roundabout way. I saw the movie called Jaws when I was 7 years old. And because of that movie, I became very afraid of sharks. And I thought sharks were under my bed where I slept and under the kitchen table where I ate. I was really scared. And what I ended up being able to do was to read about sharks as a young kid, and try to really understand what they were really like. And what I learned by reading about sharks is that they were not the monsters that they were made out to be in the movies and on TV, but really rather amazing creatures with a long evolutionary history on our planet. And so when we think about our planet, it's thought our universe is nearly 14 billion years old, and our planet Earth is around 4.6 billion years old. And when you look at our planet from space, it really is a water planet. And because we have water on our planet, we have life. And life evolved early in the oceans, and it showed us really some interesting life that started around 440 million years ago. And that was the rise of the first jawed vertebrates, and that includes the sharks. And so, in the rocks, in the fossil record, we have evidence of many weird shark species that were on our planet, including Adestus, which looks like it has scissor-like jaws with the teeth pointing outwards. We also have another species that we've discovered in the fossil record called Heliocoprion. It looks literally like it has a circular saw in its jaw. And again, we know these animals lived by the fossil record. And so it is almost like being a detective to try to understand the life history and the relationships of these animals together through the fossil record. And we also have evidence of Stethiocanthus, which is the shark on the right, which it looks like it has a large dome as its dorsal fin on top. And this was only present in the males, and they also had bristles on the top of their head. And we don't know why. So we're still putting the pieces together to try to understand how this life started and happened. And remember, this is way before the time of the dinosaurs, which we think of as ancient creatures. Dinosaurs reigned around 200 million years ago, and they went extinct around 65 million years ago. But who was here before that and after that is the sharks. And so the story of the shark is a story of survival. And the evolution of sharks has produced some of the largest sharks and largest predatory fish ever to swim in our ocean, and that includes sharks like the megalodon. And I'm not sure if you can see me still, but I'm holding a tooth, a replica tooth of a megalodon, which is as big as my hand. Megalodon sharks got to be almost 60 feet long, and they used to eat whales. So they were fierce predators. And again, the reasons for their extinction are debated, but it is thought that it was climatic conditions changing so fast that they could not continue to find their prey, and they were potentially outcompeted by more nimble and smaller prey or predators like great white sharks. And so when we study sharks, it's important to understand that there are over 500 living species swimming in the ocean today. And those are all, sharks that have adaptations that maximize their ability to survive in their very, unique niches. So each shark is adapted for its environment. And when we study sharks, we're really looking back at all of those adaptations that have allowed the species that are present today to persist. And sharks are in global decline today. And so we have seen that over 30% of sharks are endangered with extinction, and another 30% are data deficient. That means we don't even have enough information about them to classify them on the spectrum. What we do know is that sharks kill 3 to 4 people per year in shark bite incidents. However, we kill over 100 million sharks every year for their fins and for their meat. And so when we think about sharks, it's important to understand that they are endangered and they really do need our help for their conservation. And so I'm going to shift gears a little bit and share some research stories with you that I've been involved with that I think you'll find interesting. The first one, this is a great white shark, kind of the poster child, I guess you could say, of the shark world. This is a white shark that's off of Guadalupe Island near Mexico, and this is likely a female that is around 22 feet long. That's their maximum size that they get. And when she swims around this cage, you'll see she's quite, not only is she big and long, but she's also really, she's got a huge stomach, and it's possible that she may be pregnant. And white sharks can have upwards of 5 pups at a time that are born alive, and they're around 5 feet in length when they're born. And so I had an opportunity to go to Guadalupe, Mexico, to try to understand these sharks that show up year after year. And so I was asked to go in the cage to swim with these animals and to try to understand how big they get and why they keep coming back. So I went and I used some scientific equipment to help me measure sharks underwater in a cage without touching them with a ruler or a measuring tape. And so the technique is called laser photogrammetry. And so you can see the device I'm holding underwater there has 2 lasers on the ends and a GoPro camera in the middle. And it shoots and projects dots on the side of the shark from the lasers, which are a known distance apart, and the camera takes footage. And so you can go back and look at where the dots are on the shark, and you know that distance, and then you can just do the mathematics on how long the shark is. So it's a great technique that we use to understand how big sharks are, and it gives us just additional layers of data like the individuals and seasonality of this group of sharks in Guadalupe, Mexico. And when we were there, we saw weird things, like this male white shark kind of giving us this territoriality, jaw posturing. And, again, we don't still know all of the behaviors of some of these very, enigmatic species. So we're still learning, about some of the most iconic species in the ocean still. And speaking of iconic species, this is the hammerhead shark. Hammerheads are one of my most favorite of the sharks swimming in the ocean, and they are flat out weird. They have the very weird head shape. And for many of you in school, I did a PhD, and my PhD was funded through the National Science Foundation to understand the functional significance of the hammerhead head. So why do they have this weird head shape, and what does it do for them? So this is what you might not know about hammerheads is there's a whole group of different species of hammerheads, all with different expansions of their heads. So from modest to almost like a boomerang and kind of everything in between. So I went to Australia to study the one that looked like a boomerang. It's called the winghead shark. And when I arrived, oh my goodness, almost everything in Australia, it seemed, was out there. So from frogs to frilled lizards to snakes, it was all there. And so I was going out into the field to try to find this bizarre looking winghead shark that looked like a boomerang. So I went out with my advisor to try to find this animal, and we kept seeing these structures on the banks, and we kept asking, well, what is that? And the researcher that was with us said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, you don't really ever want to go in the water when you're here." And what I didn't realize is this, those were actual traps to catch crocodiles because crocodiles were oftentimes found in the rivers, and it's a pretty populated area. So they would capture the crocodiles and relocate them to other places that were a little bit safer for the crocodiles. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is a bit of a place to try to do research, but we ended up never finding our sharks in the wild there, but we did find some museum specimens, and those museum specimens allowed us to look at the head shape, and how they really perceive their world. And so this is an X-ray of one of those sharks, and you can imagine the eyes are on the ends of the heads, the nasal cavities, all of these things are spaced out now very differently from a normal shark. And the research that we did there showed that these animals have the ability to see straight ahead, even though their eyes are kind of positioned on the sides. And so that was a really interesting finding in our work. And if you ever go to this exhibit, which is actually in Miami, in Florida, in the United States, they have an exhibit dedicated to this research where you can put your head into a model and see what a hammerhead sees. So really interesting to see the research going into a museum where the public can really understand the research. And so again, hammerheads are a special species. They school together in great numbers, and they have potential social structure where they're communicating, and there's a dominance hierarchy among the schools, which is just fascinating. So I'm going to switch gears slightly and just tell you a little bit more about another expedition. This was one to Manaus, Brazil, in South America. And the goal of this particular trip on the Amazon River was to study these beautiful freshwater stingrays. These are polka dot rays in the Matoro family, and they are oftentimes traded in the aquarium trade. And so we were there to do an experiment to see if we could help minimize the stress of these animals being transported out for the aquarium trade. And so those little white boxes that you see with a little bit of water, literally they will put rays in those boxes, and they're transported on boats for days at a time. And the stress, you can imagine, is quite high, and the mortality of these animals is quite high. So we did an experiment where we captured animals from the wild to try to find out ways to minimize the stress of capture and transport. So at night, we would go out with lights on our heads to try to find the rays to capture for the experiment. And you can see here, this is one of our researchers, and the rays are in their box. We were able to capture them. But that night in particular, when we were out, we came across a small area with grass that had wasps everywhere. And so some of those wasps flew onto our bodies and we couldn't really move. So we had to just keep floating through this grass until the wasps flew off of us. So I was pretty happy that nobody got stung and we were able to get our stingrays. But it was quite an experience in the field, that's for sure. But we were able to continue with the experiment. And at the end of the day, we did additions of different treatments to the water and we increased the survivorship of these rays. So at the end of the day, the ones that are taken out of the wild for this transport will likely have a better chance of surviving, thereby kind of reducing the pressure to continue to bring more and more out. So it was a success, and we published 12 papers from that expedition, which was really exciting for our team. Okay, I'm going to keep going just a little bit longer. I don't want to run over time, but I just want to let you know that, talking about sharks and rays, sometimes it's hard to understand what is what. This happens to be a shark. It's hiding in this beautiful coral. And I don't know if you can see, it's got two small eyes, and then it's got kind of a tassel on its head. This is called a tasseled wabagong shark. And so even some of the sharks can look like rays, and some of the rays can even look like sharks, and they're closely related. And there are sharks like this one. This is the epaulette shark that actually can walk on land. So during low tide, this animal can walk using its pectoral or side fins, and it allows it to walk to areas of low tide where fish may be trapped, where it can capture them. So we literally have sharks that can walk, and 4 new species have been described by science, which is amazing. So I'm going to switch gears back now, back to a program that I was a part of to understand a little bit more about white sharks on the Northeast Atlantic of the United States. We don't have a lot of data on where these animals go and what they do as adults and juveniles. And so many researchers banded together to try to understand these animals and their movements. And my role in that was to deploy underwater cameras that had bait, so that the animals would smell the bait and come in closer, and we would be able to see videos. We also collected water at those sites, and we can literally take water samples and look for shark DNA, and that will tell us whether or not we had a white shark in that area. And this is the boat that we would do our research off of in collaboration. This is collecting our water samples to look for the DNA of the sharks. And this is what it looks like when we deploy our underwater cameras. So the cameras go underwater with bait, and that bait draws in the sharks, and they come investigate. And that's where we can start to see their colors, their markings, and then even down to some of their behaviors. And we can see male versus female. And this really helps us understand the abundance and distribution of sharks in a certain region. So this is really a non-invasive way to try to understand where these sharks are, where they're going, and when they're going, which is helpful in our management. And so you can see here, this is, yeah, sorry, do I need to stop? Are we okay?
You can go on. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I thought something was wrong. And so here we are doing a tagging of the animals. And what that allowed us to understand is that white sharks move all the way from Canada to New York, where there's a nursery area, to the North Carolina area where they may be mating, and then all the way down through Florida, where we think that they are moving through seasonally into the Gulf of America, where they overwinter. So all of these things we didn't know before until we had this information. One of the last things I'll leave this talk on is another project on killer whales. Killer whales have moved into South Africa, and they've been displacing many of the white sharks that have normally been in the area. And so we had a program where where we were looking for these white sharks in South Africa, right off the coast of Cape Town. And I'll just let this short
Dr. Mikki McComb-Kobza. I'm the director of Ocean First Institute, and I am here in South Africa on a white shark mission. The whole world knows now that we have had white sharks leave the area because of killer whales. And our goal here is to be able to tag the shark to find out where they are going. And so then what we use is just a fish head on the end of a rope in order to lure the shark close enough so that we can then deploy the transmitter in the sweet spot.
Well, we're hoping for white sharks, but it's cool to see these bronze whalers too.
Yeah. Now we need to be on our game.
What we're going to do is use a modified spear gun. And what this does is allows us to insert the tag at the base of the dorsal fin.
Yeah, so that was really exciting that we were able to try to understand where the white sharks are going as these orca are chasing them away. And we were able to see our white shark with the tag on one of our baited camera deployments, which was a real surprise for us and so exciting as scientists to be able to see that animal again underwater. So we were thrilled at the outcome of that work, and it was a real success story. So I'm going to go ahead and stop now. I have more, but I think I'm going to stop and just see if we might have some questions so that I can have time to answer any questions that you may have or conversations.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful session. Yes, I think I've learned a lot about shark this evening. Yeah, 100 million a year is a lot, and indeed, we need to step up and do our part.
Yes, it's fascinating. I have
So,
a
I am. Hello, Doctor, are you still with us?
yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So, I have a couple of questions to ask for this session, and for other fellows, if you have questions, you can drop it in the comment section or raise your hand. So, my first question to Dr. Mikki is, in your experience as an expert in this field, what are some of the biggest challenges scientists face when communicating sustainability or conservation research to non-scientific audience? I will also put the question in the chat box. What are the challenges?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. Oftentimes, as scientists, we're trained to do science and we're trained to do field work in our particular specialty, but we don't always get training in storytelling and trying to reach the greater public with our work. And I think that's one of the most impactful things we can do in conservation is to be storytellers and to make sure that the work we do can resonate with the public. And I think that that's a real skill, and it's something that all of us should really strive to do is to really share what we do and what we're passionate about. And as scientists, I think sometimes we feel like we need to keep don't want to be biased, and so we don't want to kind of go over that edge and let our guard down to do those very personal storytelling moments. And I think that we should do that because I think that's how we connect with others in a deep way. And I think that's what's required for us to really have successful conservation outcomes is to be able to have people connect with animals in a meaningful way, because that's when they begin to care. And when people care, that's when they will act. And so I feel like it's important to be vulnerable and to put yourself out there, even if you don't like to do public speaking or to share stories. I think it's really important to be vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We have learned that connection is important and the need for us to be vulnerable. I believe other fellows are taking notes. So I'm going to another question. Is about your features. You've been features and you've engaged with platforms like the National Geographic and the likes. So I would like to ask, what have you learned about translating complex maritime? You've showed us a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, and how do you translate those complex maritime into stories that can influence public awareness as well as behavior?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, sharks, the story of sharks, they've lived through five mass extinction events. So everyone we've had on our planet, they've lived through it. And I think because they have that amazing story, I think we can really share that out in different ways. And through the species themselves, we have so much visual ability to,
Sorry.
sure. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I feel like we really have the opportunity to tell the story through our research. And so, researching sharks, they're so enigmatic and they have so many different stories through each of the species that, the job is easy to really, tell the story through the lens of these animals and how they make a living, their characteristics, the obstacles they face, and really through their survival. They've lived through, 440 million years on our planet, yet today, the biggest obstacle to their survival is people and what we're doing to them. And so, what a fascinating twist to the story of the shark, and what a fascinating opportunity for us to couch sharks in the story of conservation and how the fate of sharks, as seemingly far away as it is, sharks are apex predators and they maintain ecosystem health in the ocean. And so when we lose sharks, we lose ecosystem health. And ultimately, as much as it doesn't seem possible, ocean health impacts human health. And when the ocean has lost sharks, it loses its health, which impacts our human health. And so making these larger connections more clear and understandable to the general public is really our opportunity to engage and to bring everyone to the table and to really be open, armed about science. It doesn't have to be so hard and so complicated. It can be all of us are scientists in our curiosity. And I think if we can talk in terms that people can understand and resonates with them, that's a victory.
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful response. So, in the comments section, we have in the chat box, we have a question. It's a bit um, deviate from what we have here, but at the same time, we would like to. We are young researchers, and as much as possible, funding is very important to us to achieve whatever we want to achieve. So, there's a question from Mohammed Ibrahim is asking, is Ocean First a non-profit organization? If yes, so please share this about how your team visits and researches are funded. And also, he's asking about your post at the associate as the associate professor at the University of Colorado.
Yes. Thank you for the question. So, what is it like in a nonprofit to get funding for research? And the answer is my organization, Ocean First Institute, we're about 11 years old, and it does take time to build up, projects, metrics, numbers of impact, staff, and funding. And the funding that we have for the organization now comes from many different places, grants, foundations, earned income through programs. We also have educational materials we've created that we get licensing income from. So there's many different places that we get our income in from, which makes us resilient when we have times that are not so easy to obtain funding. Right now, it is a little bit of a challenging landscape for funding, but again, because we have many different places that we get funding from, we've been buffered from some of those impacts. And I do live in the middle of the country in Colorado, but I do a lot of my expeditions and the research and my labs are on the water and all over the world. We do global research in many different locations. So it's my home, but I do travel to the ocean to do a lot of the work. And my team, a lot of them are in Florida. A lot of them travel with me on expeditions. So it's a small team, but we're very effective and it works beautifully.
Wonderful impact. So, yes, I've learned that now. So, before you can look for fund, you have to impact. Start little. The little you have to start with. So, we have more questions in the comment section. From Job,
Yes.
we have a question also from Job. He's saying, what international initiatives currently exist for the conservation of sharks and rays, and also it's about funding also, and which intergovernmental organization have adopted binding or non-binding agreements specifically addressing shark conservation. So
Yeah,
there's a
thank you.
question. Okay.
Yeah, those are fantastic questions. So, international initiatives, one of them that comes to mind right now is the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, is working with with organizations to identify what are ISRAs. They are important shark and ray areas. So, these are areas that we know have sharks and rays that are critically endangered. And so these areas have been targeted as areas that are important shark and ray areas to prioritize for protections and conservation. And so that's been a big one. And these areas are mapped globally, and there are teams that are working together to understand what are the areas, which species are the ones that should be targeted for protection. And they work in combination with things like the BBNJ, so the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. So for the first time in the history of mankind, the open ocean, the seas, the open seas are now going to be protected. And this is a victory for sharks because, as we know, they don't know borders in the ocean. They're going to swim wherever they go. And so to have this opportunity for a framework for conservation and protection on the open ocean is a huge step forward for protections of animals like sharks that are, swimming through transoceanic boundaries. So there is a lot of hope out there that these treaties, yes, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes, it's going to be hard. And yes, there's going to be pushback from countries that want more exploitive policies and want to reap, the rewards of fisheries landings that maybe are exceeding quotas. Yet, there are countries that will go and fight for what's right to try to do proper conservation. And we have to have hope and we have to work to try to get these laws and enforce them, to have teeth, to use satellites and other technologies that will allow us to stop illegal landings, illegal fishing. It is the only way that we are going to be able to really deal with the global decline of sharks, skates, and rays that is threatening the very fabric of these animals' survival.
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful response. And you've mentioned impact, so that takes me to another question. This might be the last question for this session, actually. So, from a mentorship perspective, what skills or mindsets should you think early career researchers need most when they want their work to create real world sustainability impacts?
Yeah, there's no better time than right now to be a researcher. And there is no better opportunity to make a difference than right now. It's because we have so much data and information at our fingertips. And what I would say the biggest skill set you should have moving into research today is to be able to see in grays. And what I mean by that is that there may be people on this side, there may be people on this side, other stakeholders, other parties, other corporations, other fisheries, whatever it may be. There will be many different interests at stake. Your skill set is to try to find common ground and bring people to the middle ground conversation. It is the only way that you move things forward, is to compromise, but to do it in the spirit of collaboration for a common goal. And the only way that I feel that we can move things forward is by having common conversations, listening, and trying to find a way forward that helps all of us move it forward. And it's tough. It's not easy because sometimes we have to give up things that we want in order for things to move forward. And that is a skill. And I think more than ever, that is something that's critical to move the conservation needle forward. Don't dig your heels in. I don't think it's a great strategy. Try to find a way to see the big picture and really work with others to find common ground. That would be my biggest advice for you at this moment.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And we're most grateful for this insightful session. We truly appreciate your time and the valuable perspective you've shared today. So before we round up, do you have any general words for with the young upcoming researchers?
I'm sorry, did you ask what was the last thing? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm asking, before we round up, do you have any words for us young researchers?
Oh, just
Whatever else.
please. Yeah, there is no better time to be where you are. It's an extraordinary life, and there's nothing more important, in my opinion, than working for conservation and sustainability. It is the core fundamental of life on Earth, and you're in the right place, and you're doing work that matters so much. And just know we need you more than ever before. And don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Keep doing this amazing work, and it's all so worthwhile and so valuable, and I'm really glad that you are all interested in the field, because it certainly is, in my opinion, the most important thing we can do. So thank you all for your hard work and for your the inspiration and for what you're doing. It's really, really great and necessary.
Yes, thank you so much once again. And from all the participants, please give emojis to our doctor. Thank you so much for your time. We are indeed grateful. And
Absolutely.
we want to say thank you once again. And we hope when we invite you another time, we'll be able to.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
On behalf of the Green Users and officially Green, we say thank you once again. And we look forward to seeing you in future section. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And to
Thank you.
everyone, to all the
Bye.
followers, thank you all for being part of this session today. Do have a wonderful evening here. So I'll say, do have a wonderful evening to everyone and those that are just starting their day. Take care of yourself. Bye, everyone.